Hello, South Africans and citizens of the world. And we have a real exciting live stream tonight. I'm talking to Henna du Plessis, who is the Young Farmer of the Year, winning the award from the TLU SA. As you know, recently I had a discussion with the man who heads up the TLU SA, and Henna's story is quite remarkable. He's always been a farmer. His family have always been in farming. We're going to find out a lot more about Henna and his story tonight. And his time in Zimbabwe, where he faced the sort of issues that we've all heard of. And tonight we'll find out firsthand exactly how that unfolded. Give me a second while I just get Henna on Skype. Hi, Henna.
Scott. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you.
That's good. That's good.
Now, have you got your camera on?
Let me see your video. 890102. Just a second.
Yep, not a problem. Sorry, guys, we're just getting the camera going.
There we go.
Okay, now we can see you. Fantastic. Now,
okay, that's good.
Henna, first of all, congratulations on winning that award from the TLU.
No, thank you very much, Scott. You know, it's a privilege, and I have to say, to be part of an organization of TLU that's been, you know, in the business for so many years, and it's really an honor to represent them and to be part of them. And you know, the one thing I can say about them is, especially in these last few years where the political ways have been quite hectic, I can say they kept course. You know, they stand by what they say, and they stand what they believe by, and that means a lot for us. And I think the only organization that can get us out of these problems is definitely the TLA. You know, TLU.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you that one of the Loving Life channel heroes, his name is Davy, and he's a Bultfontein farmer. And he says that the TLU are definitely the best agricultural union in South Africa. That's
definitely.
That's coming from a farmer at Bultfontein. Now, yes. Let's just find out a bit about you. You were born in Delmas, weren't you?
Yes. I was born in Delmas, and yeah, my father was a very good farmer in that area. He was there for about 4 or 5 generations, and they were maize. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were there for about 5 generations, and they were planting maize and soya beans and so forth, and also cattle and sheep. And yeah, and then he started looking at you know, different places and looking to go bigger and go see if he can find better places.
Right.
So at that stage, we were, you know, the 1994 elections were coming up. Just a second here. Okay, there we go. And yeah, we were a bit worried about what was going to happen as well. And we decided to look for, at least for, you know, I always say in South Africa or in Africa, you need to have a plan B.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think my father is definitely someone to look up to. He knows the ways of Africa, and I've learned a lot about him or from him. And yeah, he had his plan B, and his plan B was to go to Zimbabwe. And yeah, we went to Zimbabwe after you know, after we were in Delmas.
Right. Now, you jumped from the fat right into the fire, didn't you? Could I ask you to move your camera down slightly, Henna?
Is
That's
that
better.
better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, because we were just losing a little bit of your face. That's perfect. That's much
There we
better.
go. There we go.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Now,
Cool.
so as I said, you jumped from the fat into the fire, so to speak, by going to Zimbabwe. And what I remember, I went to Zimbabwe in 1974. I was 19 at the time, and I went on one of these little package tours. And the first night, it was a Saturday night, we spent at Salisbury, as it used to be. And there was a club just around the corner from the hotel I was staying at. And I went to that club that night. And I walked into this room with a whole lot of people in it. There must have been 100 people there. I was the only guy. There were 99 women, and there was me.
Yeah.
It's a
Lucky
first.
guy.
Everyone
Lucky
was
guy.
on the border fighting. And
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's the one time in my life where I've had actually women come up to me and say, "Would you mind dancing with me?"
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know, Scott. Yeah. Well, I'm. It's always easy to talk about war, and it's
Yeah,
always easy to say I wish I was there or I wish I wasn't there, especially if you haven't had bullets flying towards your side
yeah,
or having a group of 100 people attacking you. But I have to say, you know, when we went there, those Rhodesian people, they, you know, they invited us with open arms, and I have to say that was one of the best communities that I've grew up in.
yeah,
They are friendly people, and I think, you know, and I'm talking about from myself point of view. I think they realized how much it means to have each other's backs,
yeah,
and going through that trauma of war, and then having basically to lose the war, to you know, keep on farming and be positive. I think I take my hat off for those guys.
yeah,
You know, yeah, I wish I were by their sides when they were fighting the war, but that's my personal opinion. But at the end of the day, I can tell you, Zimbabwean people or Rhodesian people, as they're also known, are definitely one of the best communities, best you know, just plain people that you will meet, and they will always help you. And I
yeah,
think it all boils down to the fact that they know what is hardship, and they've worked through it. So yeah, it was very soothing to go into that community and be accepted. You know.
right. Now let's go back to when you first arrived in Zimbabwe. Okay, now when you arrived, the farm had nothing on it, did it? It was just it just had like the markers of the boundaries, and that was about it. So tell me about the early days in Zim, getting the farm going, what you did, what you farmed, etc., etc.
Well, Scott, yeah, that brings a lot of good memories back. You know, we went there, and I was grade two. I think I don't know the exact age, but yeah, well, we went there, and my father, well, he started making roads, and he started building fences and making camps, and you know, it was quite exciting, and he put so much trust in the country and also in the government that you know, he left everything behind in South Africa,
Yeah,
and went to a foreign country to build a new beginning, and to build a future for us, for me and my sister and my mother, of course, and for himself as well. I remember, you know, I'm a quite a avid hunter. I like to hunt. I enjoy the bush, and you know, it was always amazing being there, and you know, you could drive for hours and not hit a fence, and you know, there's so much game there. I mean, the eland. We talk about Livingston elands, and if someone doesn't believe me, they're more than welcome to phone my father afterwards. You know, I would be young, or you know, and then I would stand on the Land Cruiser's side, on the left-hand side,
mm,
and holding on the handle there, and then he would say to me, "Look at the eland jumping over. Let's count them." And you know, there were herds of 100 Livingston eland roaming free there. I
wow,
mean, you know, I hunted uh, um, giraffes. I shot one every month for rations for the people that were working for us. And yeah, it was just amazing. The people as well, the Zimbabwean people at that stage, they were, I mean, the Shangans. I'm talking specifically about the Shangan culture. They're a very peaceful culture, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, by the time I was 14, my mother said, listen, because I was doing homeschool,
Yeah.
and she said, listen, you need to go back to civilization. You need to go and learn to speak English and Afrikaans again because you're speaking too much Shangaan. So it was just an amazing experience, and the tranquility, being part of nature and to see all this free roaming game and eland
Oh, this is amazing.
bushbuck and everything. No, it was a paradise.
Yeah.
The rainfall was good. Um, and okay, so then my father started off, I'm talking approximately now, but the first land he bought was about 11,000 hectares
Right.
or 10,000 hectares, and there were about 50 Brahman cattle on there. So what he did is, he was a stud Bonsmara breeder since 1975 here in South Africa. So what he did, he took his elite cows into Zimbabwe. We imported them, and we introduced this breed in Zimbabwe. And I think there was probably already in Zimbabwe. I'm not. I don't know if I'm correct, but the fact of the matter is, on our farm we introduced these Bonsmaras. And I remember, just from our homestead, there was a landing strip. And these Bonsmaras, they came from the Highveld in Delmas. And that is actually like flat lands without any bush. So when they arrived on the farm, they used to stay on that landing strip because they didn't know what bush looks like. So, that was quite funny. But I have to say, definitely because of the way my father farms, and his ability to be an extraordinary farmer. Within the, let's say, the 10, 11, 12 years that we had the opportunity to be in Zimbabwe, he built up his herd by also having the stud Bonsmara, but he also crossbreeded with Brahman. And by the time they came on the farm, there were about, I would say, 700 herd of cattle. So
Wow.
it was actually an amazing way to farm and to live.
Now, you lived in the Masvingo area, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah, if you drove from Beitbridge, that is the nearest border post from South Africa.
Right.
And it's in the north from Johannesburg, obviously. And then from there, it's 125 kilometers on the Harare Road.
Right.
And then obviously a lot of people will recognize the place Line Elephant. I remember a lot of nice parties at Line Elephant and New Year's Eve parties. They were adjacent on the Booby River, and we were also upriver on the Booby River. And the diversity of game, we're talking about Nyala, free roaming Nyala, bushbuck, zebra. It was just an amazing experience.
Oh, I mean, there's one thing that they cannot take away from us, and that is memories.
No, Scott, definitely, you can't take it away. You will always remember the good, but unfortunately, like the mind is, you will also remember the bad.
Okay, now talking about the bad, things started going pear-shaped for you, didn't they?
Yeah, well, Scott, by the time let's talk about the year 2000 now, everything went well since we've been there. Everything went well. The cattle population grew and everything grew and the grass was good. And then in 2000, they started with this land expropriation, or in fact, it was land grabs. It was nothing else than land grabs.
Right.
Africa is a strange country, or Africa is a strange continent. When you're a dictator like Mugabe was,
right.
You are able to change the constitution and change anything as it suits you. So, a lot of people told us there was a lot of confusion at that stage because there were a lot of people saying, no, but we must fight this. We will not allow these people to come on our land. We bought them. In fact, the funny story about it all is in my safe about, 4 meters from me, I have the title deeds that I bought. It's a South African company, registered in South African company that's for 22,000 hectares. So I'm sitting with the title deeds in my safe, but I'm sitting in South Africa about 250 kilometers away from my farm. But to come back to what you're trying to say is, yeah, they started in 2000, and I remember the day very well. I think that's the one day I will definitely remember. Is me and my father, we were very busy weighing ox for the market, and there were two guys coming with bicycles, and they had on their bicycles on the back they had these sticks with white tips. And then they came to us with a paper, and obviously I didn't really understand the paper. And they were talking to my dad, and they said, "Listen, we are here to start plotting out plots for the people." And at that stage, the farmers union that we had told us not to interact with these people in a violent way. We must try and help them or show them around. We are going to fight this in the constitutional court, and even if that doesn't work, we will go international.
Right.
So what we did is we accepted what was happening, and they slowly came onto the farm, and gradually, over a matter of a few months, there were about 1,000 families on the farm. It's 22,000 hectares. You can just imagine everybody get a 2-hectare plot. And then everything went sideways. We used to fight fires. They would send the young kids, that's occupying the farm, the fathers and the mothers. They would send the young kids to start a fire all along, maybe even for as long as a kilometer, when the winds come up. And then it looks like a city from far. And then we know, right? They're busy burning the. Just a second. There we go. They're busy burning some paddocks, and this was all of this was means of getting us off the land. They stole our cattle. Let me just have a look here. Sorry.
Oh, you look fine.
Can you still see me?
Oh yeah. Okay, it's all good. Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm not. I know a lot about farming, but I don't know a lot about iPhones,
Don't fiddle with it. It's perfect.
Okay. And in any case, Scott, so, they would make fires. And at that stage in 2000, I was standard 8. That we call in South Africa standard 8. I think it's 16 years old.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me. I can't say the trauma. We're Afrikaners, we're Boers. We don't show emotion. We don't get scared, and we don't get frightened very easily. But it definitely had an effect on my school years. Weekends when I go home, when other kids would go home and have a party or just relax in front of the television, I would take up some of my game scouts and we go anti-poaching, and we would do. Unfortunately, I'm a very big dog lover, but these people, what they would do is, they all have dogs, and they would starve them out to help them to hunt. And I've seen how they cornered a kudu, for instance, in a corner of a fence, and how 6 or 7 dogs just start to rip it apart.
It's just
and then
shocking.
you start building hatred against these dogs. And I've shot a lot of these poacher dogs. We took snares. A lot of people are not familiar with snares. It's a wire which they make a loop on the one side, and then they put the wire through, and then it makes a loop like this, and then they put it in the pathways of the animals, and the one side they tie it to a tree, and there were times where we take 150 snares off a day.
Wow.
Every day. They started poaching so much that they couldn't utilize all the meat that they've poached. You would see vultures everywhere. They even started poaching giraffes. They would cut our game fences with the cable and thicker cable and put it up in the trees on the walkways of the giraffes. And then I remember the one day we walked in the bush doing anti-poaching, and we found about 4 or 5 giraffes just in a nearby proximity of 10 meters radius, dead.
Oh.
So, it was bad, and they started killing the cattle and stealing cattle, and yeah, then it started to become more violent because they saw, listen, we're not prepared to move. We tried to farm between them, and we always tried to make agreements, with some of these chiefs. Sometimes they didn't have oil for the Lister engine, which were providing water for them. They, for instance, would occupy. We had 3 lodges on the property, and they would occupied all these lodges, and each lodge had a Lister pump. It's a diesel pump that pumps water, and these people, if the oil becomes low, instead of putting oil, they would just fill it up with a little water, and I remember the one day, and actually this is where we decided that enough is enough. There were about 100 of them. My mother, fortunately, was not on the property. It was just me and my father. And there was about 150 of them that surrounded the house. And at that stage, the economy and everything in Zimbabwe was a disaster. So the police, if you wanted police on your property, for instance, if you had an attack on yourself, you basically had to tell your attacker, listen, wait, I need to go and get the police. And that was approximately about 60 kilometers away. So we couldn't really count on the police. And I'm not going to go into the details, but we got a bit violent. And at least we got out safely. But, they just came and demanded another engine. They just said, listen, we want another engine. You must give us another engine. And, okay. And then my mother said to us, listen, do you really think that land is more important than life?
Yeah.
And, that started, ticking in your head saying, is this really that important? I'm sure we can survive if we just leave, or that's what my father decided, or we all decided that. And, at that stage, we were able to sell the cattle, all the cows and the cattle. And
now, just talking about the cattle, did they do the sort of thing that they're doing in South Africa now, which is where they go onto a farm and they cut the Achilles heel of the cattle so that they can't walk, so you have to kill them? Do they do that sort of stuff? They did that too.
Yeah, definitely. No, they did that as well, just to get your morale down, just to basically, the end game for these people were to force you off the land. And it was very strange for me because, I grew up, we had about, I can't tell you exactly, let's say 30, 40 people working on the farm. And, we, in South Africa, it's a bit different. Your workers stay on the farm, but their families stay in more trust areas or village areas. In Zimbabwe, we built proper houses, and we allowed the family with the kids and everybody to stay on the farm, and we gave them rations every month, and they had got good salaries. And it was just very strange to see some of these people turning against us. There was one specific guy, Julius, I can't remember his surname, but, I remember shooting my first kudu with Julius. He was a tracker of ours, and I was 5 years old. And ever since then, everything I know about tracking and hunting, except obviously the gun and shooting, but I mean tracking and game, he taught me. And he's one of the guys that occupied on the farm. And it was very strange for us to see this. And it hurt a lot as well. But at the end of the day, we sold the cattle, and you weren't allowed to get any implements or tractors off the property. They also decided that belongs to them.
Was this happening to farmers all around you at the same time?
Yes. No, definitely. And we will get to that a bit later. But
okay.
Our farm specific was a South African registered company. And, for instance, next door to me, there was a German guy. And or next door to us, there was a German guy. And he was protected by Germany, because of his nationality. And I think we'll get to that. But South Africa lacked in supporting us to still obtain our land, or at least to help us compensate at the end of the day. But we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah.
So what we've did is... like our tractors, for instance, we disassembled them in Zimbabwe, and we brought them through Beitbridge through the border post, stating that it's going for repairs. So every time we come to South Africa, we would bring some parts, and then we started rebuilding the tractors on this side. And with the cattle, we did a lot of. Well, I'm sure they won't be able to arrest me now for it, but a lot of the money we tried to get through the black market. We would exchange on the border, and then we would hide it in a car and bring it through. But, if you take 700 cows, there's only so much that you can take in cash back to South Africa.
Right.
So what we did with the rest of the money is we invested in a, excuse my English, investment company, if I can put it in that manner. And, after we came back to South Africa, after a while, they told us, listen, they went bankrupt. Sorry, they lost the money. We basically came back with a few implements and a trailer or two, and to be honest, 2 tractors. Yeah.
So you basically had to start again.
Yeah, well, Scott, I always say, or there's a saying that says, Africa is not for sissies, and I can tell you it is definitely not for sissies. If you want to live in this continent, you must know that constitutional law, constitution law, at the end of the day, if you look from Africa, you can start from the top and we're coming down to South Africa. And the last place that there is a little bit still of decency and law, but it's busy disappearing, is South Africa. You must always, like I said, from the beginning, my father's plan was to have a plan B.
Right.
And, well, the plan B didn't work out, but we didn't know that. At that stage, the rand to the dollar, Zimbabwean dollar at the stage was 1 rand for $1. I'm not talking about the Rhodesian times. I'm talking about after independence. And then at the stage, it was, you could, I think it was at the stage 1 rand for $1.50. And if you take by the time in 2003 when we left completely now, we're talking about 1 rand for, I don't know, $1 billion. I don't know. It's crazy. I told my wife the other day, in my safe as well, I think I have at least 10 kgs of $1 billion notes. So I hope that sooner or later they go back to those notes, and that equivalent will be equivalent to the rand. Then at least I'll get compensated.
It would have been cheaper to wallpaper your house with it.
Yeah. No, of course. I remember in 2003, I was 18 and I was 17, but I was a year younger in school, and we still had two guys looking after the homestead on the farm. That's basically all we had left, and of the 22,000 hectares. So my job was, I was in Messina at school in South Africa, so it's just across the border. And my job was to go every end of the month and go and pay them their wages. And it was funny, at that stage, you obviously started having a beer, and especially an Elephant, a very famous place. I believe they're still operating. But, it's strange. You would go in there with a backpack, and they would have one of these machines that I have in the bank to count the money just to have a few beers,
Oh,
so it's crazy.
Absolutely crazy. So you pulled out of Zimbabwe, and you are now a young man. This was in the early 2000s. And how had you seen South Africa change when you went back compared to when you were a young boy? I mean, did you see a noticeable difference of things happening in South Africa in that period?
Yeah, well, look, Scott, when I left South Africa, I was grade 2. I'm trying to figure out what was the age, but let's say 10, 9, or it was less. But in any case, so I didn't really at that stage, worry too much about what's happening in politics and so forth.
Right.
But at least I can say this, everything worked.
Yeah.
You didn't hear about corruption. Farm murders weren't really a topic. If there was one, it was big story because it was very rare.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of interpretation of what's going to happen now with the new government in South Africa. Are they going to retaliate on us as white South Africans, or what is going to happen? So, but I can't really tell you exactly how people felt at that stage. But I can tell you definitely that since I've been back, or since I came back 17 years ago, in 2003, the racial tension. I mean, I came from Zimbabwe, and I still believe the people that worked for us on the farm in Zimbabwe, uh, their plan was not to occupy our land. I believe they were forced by ZANU-PF, by Mugabe, to occupy the lands. Because, I mean, I grew up with those workers' children. We played every day. Every day we played.
Right.
I spoke their language. I can't see that there was any hatred. But the moment I came into South Africa, and I was 14 and I came into school in South Africa, you can even smell the hatred, and
Wow.
it wasn't, yeah, I have to say it was a surprise to me, because at the end of the day, we reconciled in 1994.
Yeah.
And I think what's in the past must stay in the past.
Yeah. Now, just for the record, we got well over 100 people watching the live stream at the moment. Getting closer to 150. Now, okay, so you moved back to South Africa with your family. Don't say exactly where you established your farm, because I think that should stay confidential. But you are farming now in South Africa. What happened when you got back to South Africa? How did you start again? What were the steps you took?
Well, Scott, I have to say once again, I think you're going to find a similar farmer than my father, but not a better one, not a more hardworking one. And you must also remember, a lot of people forget about the women on your side. I think my mother, she's, in Afrikaans we say she's a Esther. She's
A hero.
It's not a. Yeah, she's a piece of steel. She's a piece of steel. She kept us together, and
Right.
and at that stage when we came back, we started over and we bought a piece of land, and yeah, well, the option was at that stage. The reason we bought where we are now is at that stage the tobacco industry in South Africa was doing very well,
Yeah.
and where we are is not too far from Zimbabwe, so you always have that hope of maybe, just maybe it's a bad dream and it will all just go away and we'll go back and be where we were happy, and well, okay, so we came back, and we're cattle farmers, ranchers, and game farmers, and we had to do something to pay off this farm that we bought. So we started with vegetables. It's also a very good vegetable area. The tobacco at that stage didn't work out well. There was some corruption and stuff. And so we started with vegetables. And it's funny, we started with tomatoes. And the person at that stage that knew the most about tomatoes was my mother, that planted it in Zimbabwe in our vegetable garden. So, but by the grace of God and by hard work, I have to really give it to my mother and my father. At that stage, I was writing my end exam. I was grade 12, matric, like we call it. So I wasn't able to be here all the time, but holidays, weekends, I was here. And well, they started over. They had the two tractors, Ford 6600, two of them that we brought back from Zimbabwe that we built up.
Right.
And well, they started small, and my dad, he's just got a green hand, and he's a hard worker, and my mother as well. And they made it work. I went to agricultural college in Potchefstroom just after that, and I was there for a few months, and it started bothering me. Me being there, we just came out of this mess, and my mother and my father, they're working as hard as they can, and I'm sitting in college, and yeah, well, how it goes on colleges and universities. It's a bit of more of a party in the first year than it is really educational.
Right.
So I decided it's unfair towards my parents, and I dropped out and I came to the farm, and well, everything I know today, my father taught me.
Okay, so you moved back to cattle farming, didn't you, in 2012?
Yeah, well, I think, Scott, there's some farmers in Zimbabwe that made, I think, the better choice by going to Zambia, and some of them went to Mozambique, I know, and some of them went to Botswana. I think the better options were to go to Zambia and Botswana. In our hearts, we are cattle farmers. That's what we love, and game. So we wanted to go back to that. There were already talks about land expropriation here in South Africa, but if you go through it once, you're not really scared of it the second time. So that wasn't really the reason why we sold the property at that stage where we were in South Africa. We wanted to, the problem in South Africa is the land is too small. So if you want to farm cattle in these drought-stricken areas in Southern Africa, you need bigger land. So we were looking into Botswana, and we found a piece of land. But there's a lot of red tape in Botswana. And by the time the government allowed us or granted us the right to buy as foreigners this specific property, the owner retracted and said, no, he's not interested in selling anymore. By that time, we've been sitting now for a year without any income. And, at the end of the day, you're eating up your capital that's in the bank.
Right.
So we made me and my father and my mother, we prayed about it. And we decided, well, that was not the will of God. And we started looking around for a piece of land again here in South Africa. And we found one on a river. And I think it was meant to be. What we did definitely do is we went on our knees and we prayed and we said, God, if this is your will, then let us have the land.
Yeah.
But by God, we will not leave this land again alive if it's being taken from us in the same manner that it's been done for us in Zimbabwe. We did not steal anything. We bought it, and we didn't take it from everybody. So if you want it, it's like TLU is saying, it's willing buyer, willing seller, market value. And I think that's the right way to do it. So yeah, that's where we are now. And Scott, it's going well. And I have to thank 4 people in my life. Is first obviously is God, and then I have to thank my wife Candace. She's always here and she's part of the farming. And sometimes when I fall down, she picks me up. And also I have to say to my mother and my father, the foundations that they gave me. Like I said, my mother, she's a piece of steel, and my father, he just never backs down. You can hit him with anything. But I have to tell you, lastly on this, it's like a knee injury. Once you've lost everything, you do get back up. You do. We've been here 17 years now, and we're doing well. We can't complain. But I can tell you, it took a lot of hard work. But you will never be where you were, and not just financially. Emotionally, I think it takes a knock on your head. You wonder, was it the right choice to go there? And then all the ifs and should have and all of that comes in.
Yeah.
So emotionally, I can say it leaves a scar, yes.
Okay. Now, I have to tell you that someone said to me the best thing you can do if you're a farmer in South Africa is to actually register a US-based trust and put the land in control or put the trust in control of the land, because then it becomes US-based problem if they try and expropriate that, and they will actually intervene. Have you heard of that?
Scott, yeah, I've heard of some of these, plans that people have.
Yeah.
And it's all good and well, but once again, I tell you, in Africa, if they want to take something, they're going to take it. If you're not going to stand up and fight for it, they're going to take it. So I say good luck to those guys. I hope it works out. I think, especially being America, they will definitely help you in a way. But you must remember, if they take your, if you are, let's say there's 10 farms next to each other, and they take the center farm, or the center farm is as US property owned or whatever,
right,
farm. Okay, you're going to keep your farm, but the people next door to you are going to lose their farm. So what's going to happen is, like it went in Zimbabwe, it's very easy. It's a few steps that they take. They come on the property. They're not being supplied with any fertilizer or seed or any capital to start farming. They come here and they sit. They get hungry. They start chopping down all the trees. They start eating up all the game. They bring their cattle and their donkeys and their goats in. So the grazing is completely destroyed. The next step is, obviously, you are the one in the center. So there's no more game on the 4 farms on the right and the 4 farms on the left-hand side. So your farm is basically going to be the target. So whether you're going to be able to farm in between them, I don't know. It's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But I believe at the end of the day, we're sitting with about 35,000 white farmers in South Africa, commercial farmers, and 5,000 black commercial farmers in South Africa. And if we can take hands, 40,000 farmers in South Africa, we definitely, if we can take hands, we can stop this. When we go further and talk about the drought and talk about land expropriation and so forth, I'm going to give you some examples of what has happened here in South Africa and how it doesn't work. So I believe if rather than to run to other countries, I think we should rather take hands. And as commercial farmers, I'm not saying as black against white. This is not what it's about. Especially when it comes to land expropriation. Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is, like I just gave you the numbers, there's 35,000 white farmers. So that is a factor in the way of it looks like it's a racial-based issue. Yes, do we vote for the current party in control? No, we don't, because they don't look after us.
Yeah.
And like I told you earlier today, it's easy. Take from the minority that votes for you and give it to the majority that votes for you. They're using us as in a chess game, and we're the pawns. The farmers are the pawns, and they want to give that to the majority, but they don't follow up. They don't give them fertilizer. They don't give them ways to farm, tractors, the knowledge. So to come back to your question, if you think that is a good idea, well, at the end of the day, you're still going to have neighbors that are going to lose their farms, and the people that are going to occupy those farms, they're going to give you a big headache. Trust me, I've been through it.
Yeah. Now, the other issue here, of course, is the fear of farm attacks and farm murders that are just exploding right across South Africa now. Have you had many people in your neighborhood who've been impacted in that way?
Sorry. Scott, I think every white farmer in South Africa is impacted by any farm attack that happens anywhere in South Africa. If you take, for instance, just in the 2018-2019 financial year, there's been 48 murders and 300 357 attacks. So you must put it in comparison with the amount of white farmers in South Africa. There's 35,000 farmers. So if you put that in retrospect with what I'm saying, 357 attacks. Yes, I don't think we're scared. I don't think we're scared, Scott, but we're vigilant, and our way of life has become a way of like a guerrilla bush war. A lot of people say we're busy, basically in a war that's one-sided. I'm also in the hunting industry. In fact, I have a couple of Australian clients that hunt with me in South Africa, and so it's difficult for me to sit here and tell you the one side of the story, because on the other hand, I must paint this picture of South Africa of being a safe country and a rainbow nation, but it's not the fact. For instance, I take our house. I always wear my 9mm pistol on my side. And for instance, when we come in at night, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have like a ritual that we do, or we have a way of what we do. We come in at home at night. First thing you do is obviously you lock the door behind you. You make sure all the outer lights is on. The dogs must be inside. The ones that must be outside. You walk through your house. You check the windows. If the windows are closed, obviously there's also a burglar bar in front of every window. Then we check if every door is locked. Okay, then we sit and in front of the television and we watch whatever we want. And your pistol is right here next to you. When you stand up and you go to a room, my daughter is now 4 months old, and there's no way that I can let her sleep in her own room. I mean, I can't do that. It's just impossible. So what we do, she sleeps in our room, in her own bed, but we lock our door. So, the question that you must ask yourself, and I would like your listeners to think about this, is how many of you guys see this as second nature, to lock your own door where you're sleeping in? You're actually putting yourself in a cell.
You're in a jail.
Yeah, you're in a jail. When we have barbecues, look, Afrikaners, Boers, it's a dangerous country, but we still braai. We still have our braais. But if we have our braais, you go there with your 9mm and it's on your side, and you always, you're relaxed, but you're always alert. The new tendency here in the towns is now to attack people while they're busy having a barbecue, because then they had the most comfort. They feel the most comfortable because it's more relaxing.
Right.
If just give you some information. Farm attacks has increased 60% in the last decade in South Africa.
Right.
And what for me is barbaric and cowardly is most of your farm attack victims are in between the ages of 50 and 71.
Exactly, and they're female.
And they're female, and and then at the end of the day, if you take the torture, where I am at this stage is the police is about 35 kilometers from me. You are lucky if they answer the phone. When they do answer the phone, you are lucky if you can hear them over the phone. And then if you're extremely lucky, they will tell you, yes, we have a vehicle, and then it will take another about 25 minutes. Now, these farm attacks, these people, they're not coming one or two. They're about 6 or 7 or 5 people. And, you can just imagine what they can do to you, your wife, and your child in 25 minutes before the police comes. And most of the cases is, unfortunately, they don't have the chance to phone the police. So it sounds very bad, but the truth is those guys, they can torture you and they can manhandle you, and 90% of the times they rape the women, and they can do that all night until the next morning when your workers come to your homestead to see, but listen, you're not coming out in your normal time at 6 o'clock to look at the work or whatever. So it's a big risk. And, what's also worrying for me is the South African Police Service, they've lost, in the past 6 financial years, 9.5 million rounds of ammunition.
And hundreds of guns, thousands of guns.
4,500 firearms in the past 6 financial years.
Yeah.
It's scary, because if you take America and those places, for a person to obtain a rifle or self-defense weapon, the process is so easy. In South Africa, you need to belong to so many organizations and so many clubs just to have a weapon. And they make it difficult for us to defend ourselves. And I'm also part of HPG, Heritage Protection Group.
Right.
I am I'm the guy in this area where I am, and it's an organization that was established by a few guys that were in the police service and were also involved in the war up in Angola. And what we do is we only target violent crimes, rhino poaching, and farm attacks. Now, we've had a farm attack here in I think it's December, and I was called out to the scene, and we went out to the scene. But immediately what we did is, instead of phoning the police, we found our own farmer community, and we said, please close the roads. These people, it was 2 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I received a call about 30 minutes later. I said to them, they are still in the area, close the roads. So they closed the roads, and on my way to the scene, they told me that in a certain area, farmers that closed the road, they interacted with these farm attackers, and there were some shots fired, and they were arrested by the farmers, not the police.
Yeah.
So it's scary to know that you must count more on your fellow farmer than your own police officers. By the way, as a taxpayer, you're supposed to have that support. But when I went to the scene, the farmer was shot in the head. And what was very strange is, they came from another place, and they went to their home. And when they was busy opening their door, they immediately just shot him in the head. No questions asked. And then they told his wife, can you see that we are serious now? And okay, when I went in, I saw him lying down there, and we started doing the investigation. And this HPG, Heritage Protection Group, that I belong to, we are so strict, even with the police, because when I got there, obviously now there's some police, and everybody wants to see what's going on, but they're not following protocol when it comes to gloves wearing and all of that stuff. So evidence is going to get lost. These people are going to get arrested, and they're going to get off scot-free.
Yeah.
So and I've had this training to know how to do a scene. So when I got there, I told the police, please step outside and wait for forensics to come. But what I immediately noticed is, these people, they are so heartless. They tied his wife on a chair right next to him where he was lying, dead. And they tied her up, and I'm not going to get into the details, but they used pliers on her.
Oh, gosh. Oh, no.
Private parts and on her nails and all of that, just to get information out of her. And the fact of the matter is, she gave him the keys. She didn't resist, And, okay, they were caught, and we're still waiting for the outcome. They're still in jail, luckily. But a lot of these cases, they get thrown out of the court because of lack of evidence. And because there's lack of evidence is because there's lack of professionality when it comes to the police.
Yeah.
You even hear of cases where police are stealing stuff on the scenes.
Oh.
So it's crazy. Scott, but you can't live in fear every day. waiting for the farm attack. I told you this morning as well.
Yeah.
It's like a pimple on a skin.
Yeah.
You never know where it pops up. The only thing that you can do is just be vigilant I don't think there's any South African or specific Boer, Afrikaner Boer that lives in fear. We don't fear.
Yeah.
We don't fear. We are just vigilant,
Yeah.
and we're trying not to get caught off guard.
Well, just for the record, we're closing in on 200 people watching the live stream at the moment. Now, I want to tell you two scenarios that are very recent and really bring home the dilemma that farmers are facing. The first one is that in Newcastle this week, there was a farm attack, and this farmer got beaten up with knobkerries. And I just put a video up earlier this evening, which was shot where the police refused to take a charge sheet over the assault. They're saying, no, we're not going to do it. And you can hear that there are about 4 or 5 white farmers saying, look, you got to do it. It's your job. And this guy's just refusing to do it. Now, that's scenario one that's happening all over South Africa now. The police are just totally incompetent. All they do is pick up their paycheck on a Friday. Now, the other scenario is even more disturbing. That's where a white farmer confronted a guy who was coming at him with a knife and shot him, killed him. And he's now facing murder charges.
Yeah, Scott, it is a big worry for us. It feels like certain areas where the police are one-sided. I don't know if they are scared that they're going to be targeted by the community or by the specific people. Let's talk about these farmers' attacks again. A lot of people are stating, I don't know the exact number, but there's a lot of Zimbabweans in South Africa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of refugees in Zimbabwe. If you take, for instance, the unemployment in South Africa at this stage is 29%. If you take the USA, it's 3.9%.
Yeah.
So now what they're doing is the government or the police services are saying, no, these farm attacks are being done by foreigners because they don't have jobs and they are illegal and so forth. But I'm working with these stuff, and we work very closely with these stuff. Yes, I believe the Zimbabweans, a lot of them are the foot soldiers that are doing the job. But at the end of the day, it's becoming for me more clear that this is also a way of pushing us off our lands. You can imagine a family where farm attacks struck. Do you really believe that the children would go back and farm on that land?
It's intimidation.
It's intimidation, and let's call it a conspiracy. Once again, I'm not quoting. This is from my perspective. It's not from TLU or anybody. This is my perspective. I can't see why if you are hungry, then you go and you steal something and you go away.
Yeah.
I can't see why you have to go into a house, rape the wife numerous times in front of his husband before he dies, and then burn them with ironing irons and using pliers and I can't see that that's normal.
It's barbaric. It's barbaric.
It's barbaric and why? My question is just why. I always tell my wife, if I get in a position in my house where they do shoot me, give them the keys to the safe, give them the guns, and let them go. But I know for a fact that's not where it's going to stop.
Yeah,
they are definitely going to be brutal. If you look back if we come back to your opinion about the police, I don't know if it's lack of competency or lack of being not able to do their work or just not interested. There's a lot of these people that are being promoted from constable to sergeant and very easily, and they don't have the know-how. So yeah, definitely there's discrimination against the farmers, and there's discrimination against the fact that when we defend ourselves, we face murder charges, and it makes it difficult for us, and it's easy for people to sit outside and say, yes, but you didn't have the right to kill that person when they were standing in your house. But once you've seen what we've seen,
Yeah.
and you can't allow. I told my wife as well, and we have, it's now that I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it, it's actually scary because we talk about scenarios where we get attacked in our house. I mean, how many people in Australia or in America or in Canada really sit at night when they watch television, talk about, let's do the drill, let's do the scenario that we talked about, how we're going to do it when they shoot me or when they do that with you or whatever. So it makes us very difficult for us and for people to say, yeah, well, I don't think you should have shot him because he only had a knife in his hand. I'm sorry, we're way past that point.
Yeah. Look, I totally hear what you're saying. Okay, now talking about farm attacks and farm murders, and it's a reality in South Africa, and there do appear to be some hotspots like the Northern Cape and the Limpopo region where they're very, very active. Do you think that's the foreign blacks, or is this the local blacks that are basically forming these gangs and attacking the farms?
Scott, once again, it's a difficult question to ask me because I have my personal opinion about this stuff. But if you look at the statistics of what's happening is we are quite, how can I say, let's call it a green zone. If you go more towards Johannesburg, let's say from me, I'm here on the Botswana border. So let's say from me towards Johannesburg is about 500 kilometers. So if you go from me to about 200 kilometers, I could say there's like a belt, like a belt going down in a certain area that is very densely populated with trust areas and tribal areas. And there's a lot of farm attacks there. We've only had 2 farm attacks in the last 5 years in this area. But yeah, I believe that there is like gangs that are being, I still believe they are giving orders to do what they do. You can call it a conspiracy, but if you take Mr. Ramaphosa, when he came into power, the first thing he did is he talked about land expropriation without compensation.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, it went very quiet. Now, if you go back, obviously I was very young, but in the Kudesa agreements, when we gave the power over to the ANC, there were a lot of international people, other countries involved in these talks. And I think a lot of those people said to them, listen, we will invest. We will give you money. We will invest. We will give you a certain amount every year. But this is the rules. We're not going to retaliate on the whites. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And because it's very strange for me that when he came into power, there was a lot of talk about expropriation without compensation.
Right.
And now all of a sudden it's dead quiet. So I think somebody, just gave him a heads up and said, listen, remember what we talked about in the Kudesa onderhandelinge, negotiations, we're not going to give you this money anymore because you're breaching what we have discussed.
Yeah.
So whether you can say that they are trying a new way, like I said to you again, and this is something for people to go and think about. If you are involved in a farm attack, for instance, me and my wife and my 4-month-old baby, and let's take the worst case scenario. They kill me and they kill my 4-month-old baby. Do you really believe my wife will stay on the farm? No. So whether it's political, I don't know.
Yeah.
What I can say is for instance, this last farm attack where the people were caught, you know, two of them were South Africans and three were Zimbabweans. And they worked, the one guy worked for this owner about 3 years before the farm attack happened. But when they talked to him, he said he couldn't get any work. So they went into a little town called Zanin. They robbed their house. Now listen how it snowballs. They robbed the house. They didn't kill anybody. There was nobody in the house, but they found a 9mm. They took it. They went to a petrol station. They hijacked a car and the petrol station for money. Now they have the car, they have the weapon, and they have some money. And according to what he's saying is, he got some internal information that this specific owner that was shot, he had a lodge, you know, like a restaurant with a overnight accommodation. He got information that we worked 3 years ago, they're doing very well, and, you know, there is money. And that's why they came, according to this guy which they arrested. So, Scott, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to tell. You know, the only thing that bothers me about all of this is if you say it's because of what happened in apartheid, and that's why they are so angry and so vicious and barbaric.
That's a load of BS.
Why are the Zimbabweans doing it?
Yeah.
You know, why are they being violent? I mean, we didn't do anything to them.
Yeah.
And I grew up with the Shangans, for instance. Yeah. They are not violent culture. So if you want my personal opinion, I think there's being orders given out. Where it comes from, I can't tell you.
Right. Now, I've got a little surprise because you haven't met Patrick, but Patrick is in charge of Farmers Aid South Africa, and he's the guy who helps farmers with food and feed, and we've got a drop happening in Williston in about 2 weeks' time. And
wow.
I'm hoping that we can get Patrick on because I'd like to obviously promote the food and feed drop that we're doing in Williston. But before I do, just so everybody who watches the video knows, there's also the banking details for the TLU SA trauma charity. So please, if you are able to make a donation, you'll see below this video all the account details and also the web page as well. All right. Now, having said that, let me see if I can.
God, sorry, just to come back to that. I go to these scenes and I see people in very bad shape. Sometimes you look at their faces and they don't look human anymore. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, well, okay, the criminal or the person involved has been arrested. It's over. It's not over. You know, the trauma for that wife.
Yeah.
I mean, if she's going to be gang raped, and that's what happens. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's things that's happened. If she's going to be gang raped and the trauma afterwards, it costs money. She must go and see people. She must try to recover. The medical costs, all that stuff. A lot of people think, okay, you've been involved in a farm attack, you survived, okay, you're all right, good luck, go on with your life. But it doesn't stop there. You know, I've myself haven't been involved in a farm attack, but I have been to some scenes, and I can tell you, even myself, you have some nightmares sometimes, you know. Yeah. So please, guys, if you can support this initiative, please do that.
Yeah. No, as I say, the banking details are just below. I'll just see if I can get Patrick on. Give me a second. Here we go. Okay. Just trying to add Patrick. Now, he did say that he might have a bandwidth problem, so we'll just play this by ear. Hi, Patrick, are you there? He's out in Bergville area, in the Underberg.
Okay.
And
yes.
He often has problems with the bandwidth out there.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to connect the call. So look, we'll just.
Scott, if I may, you know, while we're busy talking about the drought.
Yeah, please.
You know, if you take if you take our minister the other day, our finance minister the other day, Peter Mboweni, you know, he's actually a funny guy, but there's no funding at all.
Oh, Patrick's here. Hang on a second, would you?
Oh,
I'll just. Hi, Patrick. I can see you're on.
Hi, Scott. Hi. Let's see if I can get this camera to work.
Okay, yeah. Now, just while you're doing that, I'm just going to let Henna carry on about. Oh, there you are. We've got you on cam. Now, just carry on with what you were saying about the finance minister there.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah. No, you know, in the Parliament address that he said the other day, there was no talk about any funding from the government. Our finance minister, he would rather help Eskom with 59 billion rand. 59 billion rand.
Patrick, can you turn your audio down, please, on your, because we're getting feedback coming through. Okay, carry on, Henna.
Thanks, Scott. Okay, yeah, like I said, Tito Mboweni, our finance minister, the other day in Parliament, he said a couple of things. For instance, like you know, saying you must pay Caesar what is due, or otherwise Caesar will break your bones. You know. Now he's quite a funny guy, but what I can say is there were no talks whatsoever about funding for the drought areas of the farmers.
Yeah.
And you know, the finance minister, he would rather fund Eskom, our local energy supply, with 59 billion rand. You know.
Yeah.
Not million, 59 billion rand.
Yeah.
To keep the so-called lights going, you know.
Yeah.
And
okay, now,
yeah, well,
Henna, I'm just going to introduce you to Patrick. Patrick, meet Henna. Henna is the TLU SA Young Farmer of the Year, and that's a huge award that he's won. And we've been talking about a range of things relating to farmers, farm attacks, his life moving from Zimbabwe to South Africa, all these sort of things. And I wanted to bring you in because in a couple of weeks' time, we're doing a food and feed drop at Williston. Can you tell everybody about that?
Scott, firstly, Adam, congratulations on your award. That's fantastic. So yeah, congratulations on that. Well deserved.
Patrick, thank you very much.
Yes, Scott, the Williston Drive will be happening on the 16th of November. I think it's about less than 3 weeks from now. The reason why we chose the Williston, there's 176 farmers in that community. And of the 176, about 170 of them don't even have food in their own house. Never mind feed for the animals and stuff. So that is.
Sorry, this is Bergville bandwidth. Patrick will be back in a second. All right, so just to carry on with what Patrick is saying, we're doing this drive to provide food to these farming families and also feed for the livestock as well. Yeah, I'll just, yeah, we seem to have lost Patrick. Okay, well, we'll just continue talking, Henna. Now, if you can just tell me, where do you see South Africa going?
Well, Scott, you know, I wanted to. I'm busy.
Oh, hang on, Henna. We got
Yes, can you hear me?
we got Patrick back. Sorry, Patrick, just carry on with what you were saying about the food and feed drop.
The signal is not right there. Yes. So we're going to do it in the Williston. Why we chose the Williston area is because there's a huge community of farmers there, which is over 176. The last year, I think that's 65. Every single farmer that's been desperately needing feed for the animals. So that's why we're believing about this.
Now, Patrick, your reception is pretty shocking. It's your audio is not good at all. I'm going to go back to talking directly to my other guest, and if you can just sign out of this conversation, because it's the audio is terrible, quite honestly. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that we have your PayPal details because you're looking for about 40,000 rand, aren't you, for various things that you're trying to do before you go to Williston. Is that correct?
That's just for the buyers.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of challenges. Quite a bit of buyers and feed for the family.
Okay. All right. Well, look, we'll catch up again soon, Patrick, and I'm going to go back to my main guest, and thank you for just popping in. Cheers for now.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Now, let's get back to where you see South Africa going.
Scott, just to shed some light from my side on the drought. Like I said, our minister is willing to pay 59 billion rand into something that's not working and is basically not going to work. Eskom is not working. Instead of investing it in South African farmers, which are the lifeline of Africa. If Zimbabwe, they say, was the breadbasket of Africa, but I can tell you, South Africa, the 35,000 white farmers plus the 5,000 black farmers are now the breadbasket of Africa.
Right.
Secondly, the minister endorses BEE and he endorses expropriation without compensation as a scapegoat for the total collapse of a once thriving country. Farmers at this stage in the Northern Cape, even if you take us, for instance, we have a rainfall average of about 250 and 400 millimeters. Last year we had 160. I've been feeding my animals since May this year, every day. At the end of the day, the farmers, they have to help each other and rely on international donations.
Right.
And if you take, for instance, Sweden, I do go a lot to Sweden, and if you go there, the United Nations, the European Union, the way they subsidize their farmers when it comes to even America, in South Africa, if you have a drought or if you don't produce, you're on your own. Even now Saturday there was a suicide in the Northern Cape of a farmer that just couldn't take it anymore, and he's got a family they lost him. If you take about loss of job opportunities, once again, if you take these 35,000 farmers, you can go on an average of, let's say, 35 workers per farmer. So you can imagine the job losses, and already there's 39% unemployment in South Africa.
Yeah.
So this is going to have a big impact on the economy, and it's also going to have a big impact on the crime. And once again, it's going to spill over into farmer tax. So at the end of the day, I'm glad that I'm able to say that when it comes to the farmers and the drought, we are on our own. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody all over the world that are giving donations and helping these farmers just to survive, you know. And my father always has a saying, you know, he says, when it rains, remember it doesn't rain grass.
Yeah.
And that's important to know, because the impact of this significant drought that's going on is not just going to stop when it starts raining. Because a lot of these farmers, you know, they have bonds and they have loans that they must pay off. So the impact is like a ripple effect. It's just continuing, you know.
Right. Yeah. Look, it's really tragic what the ANC has done to South Africa in the last 25 years. I mean, it is absolutely outrageous how they've totally screwed up what was a really smoothly running country. And
you know, Scott, if we go back to expropriation of land, whether they'd like to know it or not, but the ruling party is becoming unpopular. The younger generation is becoming more educated with social media and so forth. I mean, you can just have a look at what they're doing when they're having strikes. You know, if you have a strike in Australia, you're going to have some people walking down the street with some flags and some banners. In South Africa, they're looting shops, they burning shops, the police are in this stage running away from the looters.
yeah,
And if you take, there's been 25 years of empty promises. And people are getting tired of it, you know, and you know, we have a saying in South Africa, they are riding the gravy train, you know. These guys, they're all driving smart cars, having, I mean, if you go and dig around a little bit, you can see what they spend on parties and
yeah,
just, it's ridiculous, you know. And my problem is, or my fear, if I can put it in that perspective as fear, is, you know, the ANC, Mr. Ramaphosa is busy playing a chess game. And unfortunately, we as white South African farmers are the pawns. Once again, like I said, we are the majority that votes, minority that votes for them. And they need the support of the majority that votes for them. And the only way to do that is to give them land or to promise them land. You know, if you take the Estina dairy farm, that's a prime example of this BEE and
with the
and
Guptas.
land expropriation. You know, the company was paid 334 million rand,
yeah,
right from the government to the company. Only 1% was used for farming. The rest was channeled allegedly to the Guptas. You know, it doesn't work.
yeah,
At the end of the day, I've realized it. As a white farmer in South Africa or in Africa, I need also to work with black people. But the black people must also understand that they need our white farmers.
Yeah.
It's a win-win combination. If we can't do that, I don't see any good future for us in South Africa. I haven't seen one farm that has been expropriated or that has been taken from normally there's big companies that you know, farm companies that has been paid out. That money has just been channeled into people's bank accounts, and if you like, you're more than welcome to go and look into this Estina dairy farm. I mean, the cows died, infrastructure disappeared. So at the end of the day, Scott, you know, the sooner they realize, and if I say they, I mean the ruling party,
yeah,
as soon as they realize that we as white South Africans are not the enemy, and that we are actually just here because we belong here. I'm African. What makes me a European? My skin. You know, I'm sixth generation farmer in South Africa. Why don't I belong here? I belong here. My child is born here.
yeah,
Are you telling me, you know, as government, that because my child was born in Johannesburg and because she's white, she's not a African? she's African, just as much as you are. And as soon as they realize that, and as soon as they realize that there's an example of Zimbabwe standing right there, how many in my workforce, 85% are Zimbabweans. You know, they're fleeing over the country because, and it's a fact, they're fleeing over the country because there's no more white farmers in Zimbabwe in operation.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that I find absolutely incredible is the ANC cadres. You know, they put their mates into these positions where they don't know what they're doing, and it's just a steel theft. That's all it is. You know, in state-owned enterprises like Eskom and places like that, it's and no one ever gets charged. It's a license to steal. That's all it is.
They're also busy with this inquiry right now, and there's a lot of accusations being made. Whether someone is going to go to jail, I don't know. I don't see even Mr. Zuma going to jail. Whether he's going to get indicted and at least be in court, yes, I think that's going to happen, because they must still prove to the international community that they are trying, and I'm doing this to do a democratic thing in South Africa.
Yeah.
But we're also going into a regime state. The ANC has been in power for how many years? And, you know, I think at the end of the day, whether it's going to change, I don't know. But you can definitely see on the ground when they're having strikes and when people are being fed up, that they're really tired of this now. You know, even if you talk to the younger black people, they're tired. You know, they've been promised a lot of things and it doesn't happen. And I really hope that we are not going to be the pawns, the way out, the scapegoat for these for this government or these the ruling party to see if they can use us to again gain popularity. Because if they're going to do that, I don't know what's going to happen. In Zimbabwe, like I said, there was about, I think, 2,000 white farmers left. In South Africa, we are 35,000 white farmers, commercial farmers. And from my side, we are not going to let it go easily. I belong here. I'm African. I'm a South African. I didn't steal any land. I'm paying the Caesar what he must get.
Yeah.
So, but it all comes down to who's going to be the victim, you know.
Yeah. Now, what is your plan B if you have to leave the farm? I mean, you must have a plan B. Is it like moving to another country? Is it going to Zambia? What do you see as the future?
Scott, no. You know, I think I'm done. I think I'm done running. We like I told you, we prayed to God and
Yeah.
we made a decision. Obviously, the first thing, if things are starting to really get out of hand, is I will definitely get my wife and you know, my mother and my child or whatever out of the country. But I think it's time we make a stand and just say enough is enough. Sorry, we're not going to let it go this time. We're not going to let it slide this time.
Right.
We didn't steal anything. Where must I go, Scott? You know, it took me 70
I hear
years.
you. I hear you.
You know, it took me 70 years to be where I am now.
Yeah.
I don't belong in Australia. It's not me. I don't belong in Canada. I don't like the cold. You know, we eat steak here and we eat boerewors and we eat biltong and we like to see rooibokke and impalas and that stuff. This is us. This is us. So I'm sorry. I'm not going to leave. I think a lot of other farmers feel so as well. For the ones that feel they have a better opportunity somewhere else, good luck. I will never look down on them or be angry at them. At the end of the day, they do have to do what's best for their family. But I think if you can look back at how the Rhodesian people stood together when times were really tough, I think once it gets really tough, really, really tough, and our heritage and our culture and our religion and just our way of life of being a boer, you weet. Once that are really getting threatened, I think we're going to see how 35,000 white farmers take hands, and we're just going to make a stand.
Right. Now, I'm just going to quickly address those watching. We've got about 150 people watching at the moment. Thank you all for being here. That's a very interesting and informative discussion that we're having here. And I just want to put the option out there. If anyone would like to ask Henna any questions, please just, or the moderators, if you've got questions copied, if you can just drop them into the side chat, and I will put those to Henna. And thanks to the moderators for keeping the side chat clean and all the input that they do. Thank you, guys. And I think Marlene's here, and Marlene is actually the lady who put me in contact with Henna. So thank you, Marlene, for your work in doing that. This has been a fascinating discussion. Okay, so let's just look at the actual. You grow vegetables, don't you now? And
Yes,
you also have cattle as well?
No, not at this stage.
Okay.
Scott, we had, but we had. Actually, you can say we also have had a drought for the last 2 years. So
right.
Our grazing basically were done, and we had to sell them. But hopefully, when the rain comes again, we will be able to buy some cattle again. Yes.
Right. Okay. And what was the factors that the TLU looked at when they gave you the award of the Young Farmer of the Year in South Africa?
Scott, it's quite a strict competition, and I think from my side, well, basically, the rules are they look at your financials and they look if you are labor compliant and so forth, and from there, I think they're looking for a guy that obviously has ambition, but also feels positive about the future. I'm very positive about the future in South Africa in retrospect when it comes to farms and farming. I think in a way our president is a very knowledgeable guy. He's an intelligent guy, and he's a businessman.
Yeah.
And as long as we as producers of food in South Africa continue what we do, I don't see any risk for us. Look, there is so many tribal land around in this country that belongs to one chief, and what he's doing is he has the land and he's only leasing it out to his local people around him. Now, my opinion is, take those pieces of land, or take the land, divide it up for the people of the country, because there's vast areas of land just lying there belonging to one chief. So if they can take that land and divide it up in 100 hectares or 50 hectares and give everybody a piece of land with a title deed. Once you have a title deed, you are able to go to the bank to loan money, to build a house, to whatever. And I think that's the biggest problem for black South Africans in South Africa, is they don't have any title deed. They don't have something that really belongs to them.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, and I think that is also the way, I hope this is what Mr. Ramaphosa is thinking, is let's take these lands from the tribal chiefs and divide it up and give it to the local people so that they can have the free will of being able to go and get bonds on their property.
But the king of the Zulus, do you think he's ever going to let go of that huge trust he's got in KwaZulu-Natal, which owns all the land, the tribal land?
No, no, Scott. No, that's you must remember that's something that is printed in history. I mean that's land that belonged to them, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
Why must he give it up? He's looking after his people, and I think we as white South Africans must make the same stand as he did by saying we will not allow land expropriation without compensation. We are sorry, we did not steal anything, but we will not allow it.
Right. Now, we got a couple of questions for you. Music has asked, how many people do you employ on your farm?
Scott, at this stage, it depends on our seasonal workers when we're working with onions. But at this stage, we have about 50 permanent workers, and then on the property that we're leasing, that we're busy with onions, is about 100. So it's 150 at this stage.
Okay. And another question here, Talita has asked, is there still horse racing in Zimbabwe? And the reason she's asked that, Talita, just so you know, was one of the first female jockeys in South Africa. And she won hundreds of races around the world. She won some, I think her first race she won was in New Zealand. But
that's amazing.
She tragically had a bad accident a few years ago now, and she's now in a wheelchair. But she's a lovely lady. And so, just to answer the question, is there still horse racing in Zimbabwe?
Mark, I unfortunately can't. Sorry, Scott. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. I'm not really up to date to what's going on there at this stage,
Right. So there's your answer, Talita. We're not sure. Right. Now, just talking about those 150 people that you employ, they're mainly adult males, aren't they?
No, I would say 50-50, Scott.
Okay.
50 female, 50 male, yes.
But how many people would each person on average be feeding because of the work that you're providing them?
No, well, if you look at our Zimbabwean people, they basically work and they take the money back home. So I think you can on average work about 5 to 8 people that 150 people are each supporting, Yeah,
because the farming community provide a huge amount of employment to the the farm labourers, and there's support.
No, and it doesn't stop there, Scott. Where I am, the closest clinic, provincial clinic, is about 80 kilometers from me. There's been numerous times where there's no service of ambulances, so we drive our people when they're sick. We drive them by ourselves. If they really need to go to a hospital, the closest one is 180 kilometers from us. They don't get any support, services. We have to phone the mobile clinic to just come around at least once and just come and check up on the people. So there's a lot of things that goes with the fact that they work here.
Yeah.
Housing, if they want to loan money, we help them. And at the end of the day, it's important also to we pay minimum wage is what is required by the government. But once again, that's a conversation for another day, is our products, our produce that we send to the market.
Yeah.
The value for instance, one butternut bag, we're sending butternut squash now to the market, and we're getting 20 rand for 7 kg of butternuts, and
that's peanuts.
Of that I must still deduct my transport, which is about 450 kilometers to Johannesburg market, and then of course labor and packaging and all that. But what I'm trying to say is, we got about 9-10 years ago, we also got about 20 rand a bag. But inflation is 7% at least going up, and minimum wage is going up, and we don't complain. We will, obviously people must work for something, we're more than welcome to pay the minimum wage, but at least, this free market system in South Africa is not working for us.
Right.
The middleman is making the money, and we're on the losing side. And that is another factor. At the end of the day, you have to discharge some of the people, because you can't, every time the minimum wage goes up, you have to compensate with your workforce.
Yeah. Why don't you set up your own service where you just deliver direct to the shops?
Well, I have to say once again, TLU is working on that. Once again, great organization. There's a better organization, but we are busy working on that and trying to see if we can cut out the middleman and deliver directly to the shops and the users.
Oh, that'd be certainly the way to go. Now,
Yes.
are there any other questions people would like to ask of Henna? Takes a few minutes for the response to come through. Okay, we got a question here from Laurie. In a normal situation, i.e. no drought, what are the best crops or animals to grow in your area from a financial perspective?
Sorry, Scott, just repeat that question.
Sure. Hang on, let me just get it back up again. Okay. In a normal situation, i.e. when there's no drought, what are the best crops or animals to grow in your area at the moment from a financial perspective?
Scott, yeah, well, that's a difficult question. Once again, we have a free market system, willing buyer, willing seller. So it's a bit difficult when it comes to vegetables and that stuff. But in a normal year where we get good rains, we got sweet grass in our area, so the cows and the calves they grow quickly. So and especially beef at this stage is quite viable. The prices are looking good. So if we have good rains, I would say definitely beef is the way to go.
Okay. Now, Keith has asked, can you ask what safety measures you have installed on your farm to prevent farm attacks?
Well, Scott, number one is staying on your knees and pray.
Yeah.
And I would say number two is definitely your 9mm on your side.
Yeah.
And then, we've got fences around the house, electrical fences. We've got cameras. We've got burglar bars. And I think the most important, and a lot of South Africans would agree with me, is to have some dogs inside the house and also have dogs sleeping inside your room. Especially, these small dogs, Yorkshire Terriers, or here's our little lion. This is our little lion.
Oh, isn't he gorgeous?
Yeah.
I've got a little Jack Russell.
Yeah, no, this guy, his name is Booby. That is one of the farms that we had in Zimbabwe. Yeah. This is Booby. He's our little lion. And Scott, more on a serious note, you put a fence around your yard, and basically electrify it, but that can be bypassed, and then you have the dogs, but a lot of the dogs are being poisoned. That stays outside at night, so that's not a bypass.
Yeah.
And then you have your burglar bars. Now, you start being specialized, or you specialize in these things later on, and you realize you're having burglar bars outside, they can cut it, and then obviously it's just through the window. But if you put the burglar bars on the inside, they have to break the window, will make some noise, and then you will know. Yeah, it sounds bad, but it's unfortunately the way it is. If we for instance go out at night to have a barbecue or braai with some friends, when we come back we have a little ritual that we do. My wife stays in the car, and I go through the house. It looks like one of these Navy SEALs. I don't have the body of a Navy SEAL, but it looks like the Navy SEALs penetrating the house and sweeping the house, and if everything is fine, then we go in. So there's some stuff that we do, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Now, I just want to thank everybody who's sat and watched the video or watched this live stream tonight. Thank you so much for participating. I'm going to put this video onto my channel, so it'll be archived there, so in years to come, people can actually hear your story, so to speak. Is there anything you would like to say to people who watch this video about, you know, a message you'd like to send people?
Scott, I would like people to please realize what's going on in South Africa. It's a lovely country. It's a beautiful country. We love it, and we as farmers, as boers, as Afrikaners, we're not going anywhere. This is our home. This is where we live. But please have a look at what's really going on here, and if there's organizations that you can support, TLU, the drought, even the trauma fund, and even the Heritage Protection Group. You can get in contact with them. They are also not government initiative. It's just people doing it for the love of the sake. Please support them. Thank you, Scott, for this opportunity to be able to talk to you, and I want to thank you for what you do for us here in South Africa. It means a lot to us.
Oh, look, it's my great pleasure. I feel a kindred spirit with the farmers in South Africa, and I've got so many good friends that I've made who are farmers through this channel, which is, they're amazing people. Now, we do have two more questions that have just come through. Talita wants to know how big your farm is, and Peter wants to know whether you have lost any trucks during the protests a while ago.
Yeah. Okay, on your first question, it's we've got 600 hectares at this stage, and we're on the Limpopo River, so we're irrigating out of the Limpopo River, and we're doing a combination of, we also have a hunting safari business that's been in operation for about 12 years, Mangwe Safaris. And like I told you earlier, we have some clients, hunting clients from Australia, Belgium, Sweden, everywhere. And then, we're doing crops on the 600 hectares, and then we're doing hunting as well. On the second question, can you just repeat it again, please, Scott?
Yeah, hang on, let me just go back to it. Have you lost any trucks during the protests a while ago?
Scott, no. I have a lot of friends that have lost trucks, but I can tell you, it's been, the ripple effect of it is just enormous.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're lucky, and because every night we send a truck, and we don't know if it's going to get burnt or not. And then hopefully it gets to the market, 450 kilometers away. When it gets there, it offloads. But now the other problem comes in. Other trucks are too scared to come and load the product. So now there's a backup on product, and there's too much product or produce on the market, so now the price drops. So everybody was affected about this, by this,
Wow.
completely.
But if the food is not being delivered to the shops, then people aren't going to get any food because it's not there.
Exactly, Scott. And unfortunately, the end user in the cities and in towns, they only realize the problem once there's nothing in the
When the
shops,
shelves are
and
bare.
then it's actually too late.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, well, look, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Henna. It's been an absolute pleasure. Congratulations on the award that you won. That is just fantastic.
Thank you, Scott.
And I'll let you go, and I'm just going to have a quick chat to the community on the live stream just about the food and feed. In fact, just join us.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Just
Okay.
in closing, I'll just move this across. Just in closing, please remember 16th of December. We're doing this huge food and feed drop at Williston, which is in the Cape, and we'll be covering it live here on Loving Life. And the whole objective here is to help the drought-stricken farmers in that region. There's something like 176 farming families that we're going to be trying to help at that time. If you are able to make a donation, I'm just going to put Patrick's PayPal account details in the side chat. There they are, Patrick at farmersaidsa.cf. And he does need about 40 to 50,000 rand to get the feed happening to Williston, and I'm sure we're going to achieve that long before the 16th. And the other thing is that the gift of the givers, this is a shout out to the gift of the givers, because they're actually coming to the party as well. And yeah, it's the 16th of November, Marlena. Yeah, not 16th of December, guys, 16th of November, sorry. Okay, so the gift of the givers are actually helping as well. They're going to be helping with the food parcels going to the farming families. All right, guys, please stay safe. I'm going to turn off the live stream in a moment, and have a good evening. And before I go the Boks.
Go Bokke.
Is there something a message you'd like to give the Boks, Henna?
God, just bring back the cup.
I think we all feel that.
Yes.
All right, guys. You take care.
Please, whenever you are in South Africa, please look me up and come visit us.
We certainly will. Well, I certainly will. Okay, Henna, take care.
Thank you, Scott.
Bye for now.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, what a lovely guy. What a lovely man. As I said earlier, please stay safe and have a good evening. And I'm going over and out. Take care. Bye for now.